Good to go? Tēnā tātou katoa, now mai haere mai koukai. Tēnā hāpu, tēnā tātou.
Tiku toi.
Tēnā hui, tēnā hāpuri, o kāwhia. Nā reko. Tēnā tātou katoa, now mai haere mai koukai. Tēnā hui, o te puari, o hāpuri, o kāwhia. I'm scared of my teacher. Welcome to you all and welcome to today's Kāwhia Community Board meeting. If I could open the meeting at 4 o'clock and ask board members to queue for the taiki.
O tēnā tātou katoa, te tuatahi mihi atu kia mix the kurumatua, o tira kia te tumu whakaraia Tanya, o tira kia tātou katoa e huihui mai nei tēnei ahiahi. Tēnā koe Jeff, the chairman o tātou whaere, ka huri au kia koe Eli, pai te kiti au koe Eli, hara mai ki tō tātou hui. I mua tō tātou hui kia ingoe tātou. Whakatakata hau ki te uru, whakatakata hau ki te tonga. Kia mākina kina ki uta, kia mātaratara ki tai. E hia ki ana te atapura, e tio, e huka, e hauhu. Nō reira, tihei mauri ora. Tēnā tātou katoa.
Good. Just opening up, welcome Annie, the public, and any apologies?
Yes. Jasmine has asked me to put an apology, which she's just unable to get here.
Yeah, no, it was dependent on the work late up there, so yeah, okay. But no,
I haven't spoken to Dave, no, Zan was the phone and went past. Public forum, how do you want to?
So we've got Annie.
Yeah.
And yeah,
okay, the floor is yours, but your call is our late item later on too, so the floor is yours, Annie.
Yeah. So I'm back here again to ask for the forage of all for our Kāwhia Kai for All. And our Kāwhia Kai for All has been established 5 years running now in Te Awamutu, in my part district. And we started here in Kāwhia in December. And now we're coming to May, going to June. So I'm asking for 7 months to the end of this year. So the Kāwhia Community Board can fund the pool for 4 hours. We only use the kitchen area. And we leave it in a clean space when we leave. So far, we've distributed 500 bags pipe to the community. And that's a lot of pipes. There is a great need out there. Yeah. I'm just shocked how much the price of butter. That's ridiculous. $10. It's going to get worse. It's going to get worse. But people know who we are now and they'll come here. So that's my hākai, that's my ask. Kāwhia can continue to fund the pool to keep this going for the community.
Any board member questions?
Through you, Mr. Chair. O tēnā koe, ini, ia tautoko o tēnei tautoko ana hau tēnei kaupapa nui mo te hapori o Kāwhia. I thank you in coming along and speaking and just support everything that you all do. And I'd just like to say a big thank you. Nō reira, tēnā koe, o tēnā koutou.
Thank you.
I'd just like to add too, I think it's a wonderful thing to do. I think it does meet the needs. I think it's great that you're able to do it. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Councillor Jeffrey, questions?
no, I would just congratulate Annie and the team for what they're doing for the community. So yeah.
So Annie, just basically funding until the end of this year.
But in hindsight, I think it's going to continue. So I'll just apply every year.
We've got a late item that's getting added to the agenda, and it involves the community use, and community hire of the hall. The groups are expanding now on who's using it, and yeah, so we can have a really good discussion about where things are. So yeah, and from the board and the community, thank you for doing that there, mate. So, here there's a need, certainly is. We appreciate what you and your helpers and Big Fish.
Yeah. Jacob comes out on the band that delivers it. Wouldn't have done it without him.
So I can say that even though funding might run out, you're safe for a little while. Thank you.
Totally.
Just a quick clarification, what's the amendment?
$20, 7 months, so it'll be $500 for so not all the rest of the weeks left in the year. Yes. It's a 7 months works. We'll just put it in for 7 months.
Why 7 months?
We've got a price increase in July the 1st that we're talking about. Okay, so what Annie's asked for is the balance of the rest of the year. The 7 months that's left of the year. But we can't put a figure to it because there could be two different figures. So we just put down 7 months funding. There is. Where are we? Yep. Excuse me, board members. We're using. You notice we're not using our little microphones. Yep. We've got the magic microphone in the middle here, but we do have to speak a bit louder. Is that better, Dave? Thank you. Right, moving on to the late items, and my apologies to the board for this not being fully distributed to you. It's the page, just the late items.
Page 3.
Oh, page 3, yeah. So it's just the late items, and there wasn't going to be any late items until about an hour ago. So my apologies that this hasn't come to you. But the late item is, and I'll move it, and I'll just read it out first, that the Kāwhia Community Board accept the late item fees and charges 25, 26 due to Otaronga District Council, considering and improving late fees and charges for 25, 26 at the meeting, which may be before the building. What I'm asking is that we rescind our motion to increase the hall charges. Recommendation. That because it hasn't gone through to the council yet. We've got a month to get this right. And what I've just realised over the last 3 or 4 days and today, when I got another request from Jeanette Scholl, because their funding's run out for their health thing that they do, their exercise group that they do on Tuesdays, and we've got Annie, that's her funding's run out for the Kāwhia Kai, and the Kāwhia Water Fitness Club, that's just going from strength to strength. They're okay during the summertime, but the winter time, and I thought things might peter out over the winter, but it hasn't. So in front of us today, we could have had 3 funding applications for our discretionary fund to pay for the hall hire. That goes to $35 next July, based on our recommendation. And when I looked at the role of this community, it's not a community hall anymore, it's a community centre, and it's getting well used by the community, for the community. And I looked at some of the other council-owned assets that are in this town, and quite frankly, that this here would be one of the most highest council assets to pay for. When you look at what we're receiving from the wharf forage down there, and the sheds forage, and even some of the other community council properties that are around this place, it was out of kilter what we were asking the community to pay to use their community hall. So rather than a recommendation that was in place, that you go to your page 8 on your agenda. Sorry, going. Page 12 on your agenda. And I'll be the first one to stick my hand up here and say I didn't put enough thought into this charge going from 20 to 30.
I have to admit the same thing.
But I had based that on only one community group was getting charged $20 and it stayed at $20 and that community group was you, Andy. Oh. Okay, that's I'll move that motion. Do I have a second? I'll move that motion that we can discuss this, what we've been doing.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So we're adding this onto as a late item.
Yes.
Yes, so we just don't, and
Yes.
you're going to discuss later. Yes.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. So we're not discussing now, we're just going to put it as a late item and then we'll come into discussion later.
Sorry, I just thought I would explain why
Oh, no,
not putting it in this later.
that's all right. I think, just so that we don't get too mixed up, it'd be good just to have it as noted as a late item and then we can come back into discussion.
Sorry, I just thought I might explain why it's a later one. Cool. Okay, well, I've moved it. Do we have a second?
Yeah, I will.
All those in favour? Right. Thank you. Declaration, conflict of interest, anyone? No. Confirmation of last minutes.
Sorry, just to clarify, just to come in later. So, just procedurally, under the Local Government Act, you have to give reasons why. So you've resolved it, but just to clarify, the reasons why it wasn't on the agenda and the reasons why it's been brought as a late items, because Graham's reporting the end of this month on your recommendation, and you don't have another opportunity to rescind your recommendation. So that's why it has to come now as a late item. So that's the reason that I will put it in for accepting it.
I don't have to worry about this. Thank you. Thank you. Confirmation of last month's minutes. I'll take them, all read them. Is there anything in there?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things, Mr. Chairman. Page 11, I just wanted to say thank you to, I assume it was Graham that organised to have the schedule of fees and charges for the hall put up. Thanks, Graham. And that'll change obviously from 1 July. So much appreciated. I've already had some positive comment about that, so well done. Yeah, just on page 15, under the heading Kāwhia storyboards, I just wanted to make sure that, well, I'm asking the question, should the storyboards include both Māori and European history and sites of significance? There was an issue that was raised during our discussions recently on the draft Kāwhia Aotea concept plans. So I just wanted to make that point for thought, nothing else. And I think that was all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I did want to talk about the discretionary fund, but I can wait until that comes up. Thank you.
I have a couple of issues, and I've got to say I have some regret about our my involvement with the wharf charges. And I moved the motion on need to believe. But what I have got is that on page 13, we're going to get a report, come back to the board with funding options and concept designs for the community notice board. Are we there? Have we got them?
If you go to your the resolution back on the resolution register, page 28, that sort of gives you an out.
My suggestion would be that that discussion comes up as part of the resolution register. Because all you're doing is confirming the yes.
But the answer to that is in the resolution.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else? Sorry, Richard. Anything else?
Oh, kia ora. Page 15, the board projects Kāwhia storyboards. A correction in that, this is not the storyboards. I was giving an update on the sign, slow down sign as you come into Kāwhia. So that's something separate to the storyboards. And yes, Te Reo will be incorporated in all the storyboards and in all our signs that we're working on. Thank you.
You. Anything else? Right, I'll move that they're a true and correct record. I'll second it.
I'll second.
Councillor Jeffries. All those in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Decision reports, moving on to page 19. And this is a decision report on Kāwhia boat parking, item 34, page 19 on your page. And we will have a presentation from Graham Bunn, the Group Manager of Business Enablement. Welcome, Graham.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay, I'm just going to find the report here. Yeah, so this report is just to formalise the direction that was given by the board at a workshop on the 13th of February. I'll take the report as read. I guess the only comment I would make is just in terms of the recommendation in 3 part B, and this is, I guess, following on from numerous discussions around parking around the wharf area, the boat ramp, etc. That we do a full investigation around the overall parking situation and prepare a full report and come back to the board on various options for enforcement and potential charging. But yeah, just yeah, happy to take any questions.
Board members, if you could go to use your paper copy of this agenda item on page 19, because under staff recommendations A, part 2, that reads no formal lease agreements be progressed. Okay. I think your original agenda might have said formal lease agreements be progressed.
No, it's not mine or in sync.
They're in sync, exactly. Any questions, board members?
Well, there's not quite a question, it's rather a comment, Mr. Chairman. Just in terms of item 2.3, Graham, you talk quite rightly that there will be a rates impact on Kāwhia, but I think probably there still is some discussion, and a lot of the water that go under the bridge, in my opinion, on how any works down there should be funded. And I asked the question, why should only Kāwhia residents pay, particularly as many users are from out of district and many locals don't even own a boat. So I think there's some discussions yet to be held about how any funding will take place. So I just wanted to make that point, Mr. Chairman.
There is an opinion that as it's a benefit to the whole district and not unique to Kāwhia, that it might be looked at as a district good contribution rather than a total.
Yeah, I'll just make the comment that if we were to progress this at the moment under our current funding policy, it would be incorporated into that Kāwhia Harbour Services account, which includes the wharf and the boat ramp, and the current funding for that is 75% district, 25% Kāwhia. So it would take a change in our funding policy to make that 100% district funded. And I guess my comment there was that it would have a rates impact on Kāwhia, irrespective of whether it was district funded or a split funding. And I think the reason when we had the workshop was that if there was going to be any impact, that it was to be taken back to council at that stage, so it could have been incorporated into the annual plan. So at the moment, there's no budget either district or in Kāwhia for any upgrade work or any potential lease payments if we were to progress a lease on that block.
A question, Graham. So the worst case scenario would be just a 5% impact on Kāwhia.
Yeah,
that'd be worst case scenario.
Yeah, that's the way the wharf funded, Jeff. Yeah.
Looking at I've got the wharf funding here.
Yeah, but we are talking, Graham, aren't we, about any funding would be by way of loan. So we're talking about 25% of any loan charges.
Yeah. I think, you know, like the estimates in terms to upgrade that boat park, I think was in the original workshop presentation, but I've also included that in the report. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, that doesn't include any fencing, any survey costs, any legal costs. You know, so it'd be substantially more than that. And I think the issue that even the board had when we presented with the workshop is that it's a significant amount of money, whether Kāwhia is funding or whether it's district funded, to spend on land that council doesn't own. You know, so that was the issue that the board had at the time.
I see in that item B, the prepare a full report, various options and enforcements and potential charging. I've got to say to you, I'm in favour of trying to make the boat owners, the boat parkers pay. I accept that it's a Kāwhia resource. In fact, I think about 80% of the users, especially the peak times that give us problems in town, would be outsiders. So I would like to find a way of charging the outsiders. But I think that's covered in the B, isn't it?
Yeah, that's you're quite right, Richard. And I think that's the options that we intend to look at. And I think it you know, there's a lot more I guess options available now to kind of cater for that there wasn't in the past, you know, and you know, we talked about at the workshop around potential charging even at the boat ramp, you know, rather than a parking charge. But I think, you know, just to talk about the charter boat owners and the ability to charge there, and I said that in my email to you, Richard, is that we haven't got a lot of teeth at the moment in terms of enforcing that, you know. So what we would need to do is introduce a bylaw. And interestingly enough, I was looking for something yesterday, and there actually used to be a bylaw for the Kāwhia Wharf way back in 1971, when it was the old Otahuanga County. So that would have long lapsed, but there's been obviously a past history of having a bylaw there, and that would enable you to do a lot of other things apart from just charging. It would enable you to kind of control more the usage of the wharf and other marine facilities and that there as well. So it's certainly an option that we could look at. I sent Richard a copy of TCDC's bylaw. I don't know whether you had a chance to look at that Richard, but you know, they've got a obviously with the coast there and the Coromandel, I mean, you know, a huge amount of wharves and jetties and boat ramps, you know, so they had to have something, obviously something in place. But yeah, at the moment, I mean, we've got nothing to really enforce any, particularly the berthage. I think with the sheds, I mean, we've got the option there if they you know, for example, if they don't pay, we can lock them up, you know, so they can't use them. But you know, apart from that, it's always been difficult.
What would it take, through you, Mr. Chairman, I'll ask Tony and Graham, what would it take then to get an item for the upgrade of the car park at Kāwhia into the LTP? Do we need a motion from this committee, or was that?
So I think the sequence would be in Graham's comment. So
Yep.
The report comes back as comprehensive report only.
Yep.
Then KCB considers it. You make a recommendation back to full council, and we won't do that well before the next LTP. If the recommendation is to progress with formation, then the council can determine that and put that into the next LTP. You've got plenty of time to.
Yeah, and that would include at the time, I guess, how the funding would work.
That could be part of it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the difficulty, Kit, is that you know, and like, you know, this has been going on for you know, and I'm not trying to you know, be defensive, but I mean it's because it's multiple owned Maori land, we've got to get agreement from all of the owners. You know, it's not, you know, and they don't all live in Kāwhia. You know, I know Jamie Tamaki tried to do a bit of work. There's some of them in Tokoroa, some of them are in Auckland. You know, and so there's no trust or anything on that block. So we've got to get acceptance from every one of them, and they've all got to agree. you know, so it's not easy to try and get that over the line, and various staff members before me have tried, you know, so you know,
You know, I've actually got a similar issue with some Māori land that I'm involved in, but I understood, and this came from, I thought came from the mayor himself, was that all parties had now agreed to proceed with this, and it was only a matter of funding. That funding was the only issue that was holding the whole thing up.
No, I think what happened, they had an initial meeting out there, but it was only with the people that actually live on the block, you know, so they don't speak for all the owners, you know, so they're you know, there's and I know this is where it broke down, you know, 10 years ago, was that I think there's a one whānau live in Auckland, and they wanted back rent and all sorts of things, you know. So yeah, I know there's owners in Takaroa that Jamie went and talked to as well, so trying to pull it all together.
Also, quickly.
I'll bring you, Mr. Chair. I know we were speaking about this at the last hui that we had here about the meeting with the landowners, and yeah, it just all this korero sounds familiar. Like we keep on talking about it.
Yes.
Yeah, which is why I thought, right, let's bring it to a head, because and I will recommend that we make a change to wording in item 3, A, part 2, is that a formal lease arrangement be progressed, because that's the stumbling block at the moment. Okay? So
Say that again, please, Chief.
instead of saying where it says A, part 2, no formal lease agreements be progressed, change that no to A. So we progress formal lease agreement.
So Jeff is moving, and you need a second before you can discuss.
Okay, so I'll move that.
Yeah, that's totally different to the direction we got from that workshop, GFA, you know, so
Yeah, I understand that, but
yeah,
we can't do the rest of the workshop without a lease agreement.
Yeah, but I mean, the decision from the workshop is that it's not much point all the work trying to progress the lease agreement if council's not prepared to spend a considerable amount of money on a block that they don't own, you know, and so that was the direction we got from the workshop. So if they're not prepared to spend the money, there's not much point.
But you can make a lease agreement dependent on approval by councillors to raise the money of the long-term plan, couldn't you?
Well, so the other thing too is this board doesn't have delegation to enter into lease agreements. So this would need to be a recommendation to council to enter into a lease agreement. So that's another nuance as well.
Yeah.
So my thoughts are, the first step is to get a lease agreement negotiated.
If there are multiple parties and we can't,
Then we
where does that leave us?
So procedurally, we've got a notice of amendment on the table. We need to second that before you have debate around it.
Okay.
So Jeff has recommended a change. I would suggest that if you want to progress that change, Jeff, that you strike out A2.
Yep.
And you add C, where KCB recommend to council to enter into a formal lease.
Yep.
And then council needs to agree to that.
Yeah.
So that's the motion. You need a seconder, and then you can have that discussion.
I'll second.
Yep. What's the motion again?
That the council enter into formal lease arrangements, discussions with landowners.
See, it's a funny situation, because it's not going to go ahead unless you've got a lease, and it's not going to go ahead if the landowners don't agree to it. But at least this is trying to get some traction on.
And I having talked to the mayor, we can have some resolution here in a year or two. You know, with the work you did today, Councillor Jeffries, with someone's already offered to have some community help. You know, we might be looking. Sorry, I should get that recommendation passed on.
So I think so. Kai, we've got Kit Sekinu.
Yes, I do.
Yep, so you okay?
That'll move. Where I go to talk. Okay. So the first step we've got to do is to make sure that the council isn't wasting its money and time and effort. The poor old Graham, he's been on this for a few years. Okay?
Yeah, there's been a massive amount of staff time go into this.
Absolutely.
You know.
So, and we keep on hearing, we're hearing that yes, the landowners agree. So right, let's bite the bullet and put that in place. And then if that goes in front of the council and the council agree to that, then the rest might take a year or two, but at least we can start with.
Yeah, we don't even know the landowners. The meeting that Max had, the only one that was there, as far as I'm aware, was Tomai Tutiao, who lives on the block. That's the only.
Well, then
there was no
agreement from the landowners. Then that's it.
Okay, there was no staff at that meeting, and when I talked to the mayor on it, I don't even know what was agreed. You know, so it's
and that's what I mean. We as a board, we keep on hearing all different things. So let's formally ask that we have discussions with the landowners for a lease agreement. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I'm listening to what Graham is saying, and what he's saying is very difficult. It's a difficult task,
Yes,
and what the process is.
yes.
So, and there's a lot of landowners from up north to Tokoro to wherever, Naho e wha. So it's not an easy process. That's what I'm hearing from Graham.
I tried to like Jamie Tamaki spent the last year trying to pull those, to try and contact all those owners and pull them together, and she knows them all, and if she couldn't do it. I mean, that's all. It's not an easy process.
Yeah, but and also with the process, everybody has to be in agreeing to the kaupapa. Is that going to happen?
No. But then again, we don't want to have this discussion again in 3 years' time. And it's costing so much time.
It just keeps going around in circles.
Yes.
And I think the point that we're trying to make here is that unless there's a lease agreement in place, we're just wasting our time. There's no point in looking at funding. There's no point in looking at doing any works down there. So to me, it just seems logical progress that we either get a lease agreement in place or we don't. And if we don't, it's a
Yeah, I guess the direction I was trying to come from Kit was that let's look at the whole parking situation there, rather than just kind of look at like one little isolated part of it, and I don't think that bike park's the magic bullet that everybody thinks it is. You got the Marae there, which is right next door, opening up for fishing contests and things now. It's just part of the jigsaw. That's all. And to spend that amount of money without doing a whole review of the parking situation. I mean, you could open that up and spend a couple of $100,000 on upgrading it, and people just will park elsewhere. So it's not sorting the whole situation. I mean, I'm no parking expert, but it just seems a huge investment in staff time, and I just wonder what it's going to achieve. That's all. I mean, yeah, sorry.
I agree.
I understand where you're coming from, Graham, but let's just go back a day or two. Just recently, we had a workshop here on the Kāwhia Aotea concept plan, and the consultants are actually pushing to close the car park area behind the hall. And in addition to that, we had another person who was present said that we should turn the car parking area down by the wharf into a green area. So if all that happens, we've got no parking other than what's in the street. And frankly, something like this it's got to ease that situation. I mean, we just seem to be pushing one problem away and creating another one somewhere else, and it's really, really frustrating. Yeah.
To the chair. No, thank you for able to confuse me. That's all. I don't disagree with you. I am worried about taking away the word no for formal lease, because I think that we're just asking, if we're saying to try and get a formal lease, we could be asking for an endless bucket of money, and because the problems are huge. So, like.
But then that's part of the negotiation. The bucket of money's too big, then we say we can't fill it.
But even to get to the point of where they think we may have a lease in front of us. That's going to be a lot of money. It's going to be a lot of time from what I hear. And I'm just reluctant to say, let's head down this road to get this lease and spend $200,000 getting there, and we haven't even got the lease, but at least we've got the intention to sit down and talk about all this. So that's my
Well,
concern.
the alternative though, for not suing a lease is to not do anything with the car park.
That's right.
That's the alternative.
I
So
understand.
that's the decision we have to make today.
Yeah.
Do we either pursue a formal lease or do we go
So-
with our hands in?
If I could, through the chair, so again, this is just a recommendation to council. If you endorsed this notice of motion, this recommendation, what would happen then is Graham would bring a report back to full council on your recommendation for a lease. That would then expose all the costs of going down the pathway that Graham's talking about. You probably need to bring an external consultant because it's exhausted our staff resources. All that would come in front of council, and then council would make the decision, yes, pursue a lease, or no, don't pursue a lease.
Yep.
And we've got a representative here is on council here.
Yep.
So all you're doing here is recommending to council who would then approve or not to go down the lease.
Yeah, no, that's good advice, Tony. And look, I understand exactly where you're coming from, Graham.
Yeah, like that,
We can go back years and we've been having the same discussion, haven't we, for years.
like that whole block needs, you know, even to get a lease in place. I mean, that whole block needs resurveyed, you know, and you can see it even looking on the GIS maps. There's a big drain, like, you know, where the fence isn't the boundary, you know, so there's a big drain kind of runs up it, and
But
you know,
those are all issues that
Yeah.
are not going to surface until such time as there is a lease.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. I think for me, and I think Jeff's hit the nail on the head, is that if we can't get a lease, the whole thing about this car park at Kāwhia was a dead duck, really. So
That's out of council's hands.
it's out of our hands, yep.
And we're not getting visits
And whether the local boat people like it or not, there's not a lot we can do about it because the whole thing really rests on the owners of the land.
yeah, and like the thing, like you can lock a lot into a lease, eh, but you still got no certainty of tenure, you know, and so it's not our land, you know, and it's multiple line Maori land, which makes it even harder to deal with, you know. So yeah.
And that, to you, Mr. Chair, yes, it's not our land. So, yeah, goes back to the owners.
and I totally understand that, you know, Kāwhia's leasehold land, you know, but and if it's leasehold land with owners, they still manage to find an agreement and get a lease in place. So it's just a very big block of leasehold land, you know.
Isn't it?
Through
Through the chair, isn't it a Otaronga District Council recognised car park for boatmen, for Kāwhia?
I don't believe so.
I don't know whether that's right.
No, this is private land that there's an arrangement at the moment for rates forgiveness
No.
for the land. So yes, there's been
The
an
inconvenience to all those residents down there is quite large. It is quite large. It's very unfair on a lot of them, man. I tell you that the inconvenience they're getting down here through this issue. So I don't know. I guess I go along with the position of the seek a formal lease, but I'm worried about the costs.
Well, then when it gets to that stage, if the bucket's too big to fill, we don't fill it.
Yeah.
You know, that's a commercial decision that the council and the board has to make.
Yeah.
But we have to have figures in front of us.
Yeah, we need a good business case to say, yeah, you think that you should proceed.
And then we can go
and
to
try and
council,
get
we can make a recommendation to council saying this is
Yep.
the cost.
Yep.
This is, and then we can get stuck into our community involvement. We can build that cheaper than that there. Kit's already spent 30K today, based on that 140 odd K for section 1.
Yep.
You know, and that's just talking to one person. So yes, we could make it a community asset with community involvement. But the first step is to make sure that if we invest $100,000 and a hell of a lot of community effort into that, it's in place for the next 10, 20 years for Kāwhia. And that's our first step.
Yes, to you, Mr. Chair, but let's not forget this is not our land.
Absolutely.
The whānau may have other arrangements for that land.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to remember that.
Yeah, we're totally comfortable.
Yes.
Absolutely. You know, if they have other arrangements for the land, that's fine. Right? But and they need to tell us, and then we'll move on.
They don't need to do anything, Jeff. It's their land,
Absolutely.
but we can approach them. You have to understand that this is their whenua.
And they've,
Now, whenua tuku iho mai ngā tūpuna. So this is whenua that is, their, like, it comes from their ancestors. So, you know, we're talking about it like honestly, I think we just have to stop talking about it because we're talking about it too long. And we just have to realise that this is whānau land that we're talking about. Let's go back to them, do what we said we'll do, and then we'll come back to the table again.
that's all.
I mean, we may even have to do, like considering where that land is, we may even have to do like an archaeological assessment there. You know, it's you know, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I'd add through the chair is there's probably a bit of a risk at the moment because it's by goodwill and a gentleman's agreement, I suppose, that it's been allowed to be used. But so if that might continue indefinitely, who knows? But at some point, if the landowner wants to use it for alternative use, they could say no more boat parking, put a fence up.
Yep.
Then you've got boat parking along the road. So it's probably in your interests to try and pursue a lease. Noting Graham's points that that's going to be long and expensive.
The best scenario from my point of view would be if the landowners set themselves up as a commercial operation
Yeah, and I've often
and took complete control, charged. Be out of our hands completely.
Lots of options, but I think we, as a board, we do have a duty to find a resolution for this problem.
Yeah, it's been
And
going.
we just can't keep on kicking the can down the road.
No, and I think it's quite right. I mean, you know, it's not our land, but at the same time, this is an issue that's been with us now. I don't know how many years we've been talking about this. And I just see this as one way of actually trying to bring the thing to a head. And if the landowners can't agree, that's fine.
And if they don't,
If they don't want to have boat parking down there.
Just answer the question there, Kit.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this for so many years.
Yeah.
The answer's right there. Kia hau name, the answer's there.
What?
It ain't gonna change.
But kids getting visits and people
I
getting.
think,
Oh yeah, that's from some of the whānau, but like Graham said, there's a whole list of landowners.
Yes, understand.
well, I think we do have a duty to try and get some resolvement. And I'm not necessarily just talking about the landowners. I'm thinking about all of those residents. There's lots of Kāwhia residents around there. So, and I'm thinking about all of those, they need some resolvement to some of the issues that arise out of this as well. So I guess we do have to, but yeah, I only see one outcome of this here, and that's for the owners to set up a commercial operation and take charge of it themselves and charge everyone.
Yeah, but I wouldn't.
And
whatever
hopefully
the
they make
outcome
good
is,
money out of
But
it.
then again, Richard, who are we to
No,
go
no,
to them
I've-
to
100%.
say
Well, that's what I said in my opinion. It's certainly
Yeah.
not for me to enforce,
No.
try to force that on anyone.
Okay, so progressing then. We've got that, we've got the motion.
You want to read the motion there?
Yeah.
That the Kāwhia Community Board support the continuation of the historic agreement with the owners of the land on Kāwhia Street, noting that 1, ODC would continue to pay the rates on the land in compensation, and 2, the boat parking area remains as it currently is, and B, recommend that ODC investigate the overall parking situation in Kāwhia, particularly around the wharf and boat ramp area, and prepare a full report on various options for enforcement and potential charging. And C, recommend that ODC enter into a formal lease agreement, recommend that ODC enter into formal lease agreement discussions with the landowners.
Clear?
Yep.
Yeah.
We've got to stop kicking the can down. Okay, all those in favour? Oh, sorry, do I have a second on the motion?
Oh, you got a second
Yeah,
time.
all those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, board members. Thank you sincerely, board members, for that.
Thanks, Graham.
Thank you, Graham.
Thanks, Kev.
Did you want, through the chair, if you had the late item now while Graham's on, that's around fees and charges, he may want to contribute to that discussion.
Yep.
If you wanted to insert that now, that would be okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Right, so bit of a background, and I'll try and be brief on that. When, and I'll stick my hand up, I didn't put enough thought into the When we set the fees at $20 for minimum hire for the hall. And that was anticipation that we had 1 or 2 community groups that were using it. At that stage, when we made a decision, we looked at the hall charges and went from 20 to 35. The only person that we had regularly used for and paying for it was NRS, Kāwhia for Kāwhia group. And that was at $20 and it was funded through our board. That with the proposed charges that we put in place, the supper room change stayed at $20. It wouldn't have been any. But the rest of the hall went to $35 minimum charge. Since then, we've had I got asked this morning from the Thursday elderly group, their funding, I thought their funding was coming through Dr. John, that stopped. So we've got the situation where they could potentially, from July the 1st, have to pay $35 for their community elderly exercise group. Then we've got the other Kāwhia older club that started up, and I didn't know how much life that would have, but that's got life, and we funded the hall after they moved over from their school. They were using the veranda at the school, and if anyone wants to check their website, that got legs, and it's a bit more than a fitness group. I've got advice on health and eating and good cooking, and that's grown some legs. They've run out of money that we gave them because they're using it. They're using the hall 5 to 6 times a week. So it didn't take them long to choose through the $100 that we gave them. That's running out, and July the 1st, our proposed charge is to $35 with the hall staying at 20. So,
yeah.
And amongst all that, we were looking at fees and charges for the other community assets that are community owned in Kāwhia, and the hall. We put the boat wharf charges up, and the hall and the little shed charges up, and that went up to we increased their rate, what they were paying for the wharf berth and shed for just over $40 a week. And there's other community-owned assets in Kāwhia that are paying similar people call rates. But we're asking the users of the community hall that's here to serve the community, the minimum charge will be $35 for 4 hours. Right? I don't think that's equitable for some of the other income assets that we've got here. This is more than a hall now. It's opened up to the community, and it's been led by Annie and the other health groups that are here, and it's turning into a community centre rather than just a community hall that's hired out for tongues and 21st and weddings and things like that. So, and I don't know that it's sensible for a Kāwhia community board to continue to use the discretionary fund to fund users of this hall. Then that it's a paper transfer. It comes out of our community fund and goes into the hall. Okay, so I don't think it's sensible. So I'm proposing that I think we've got in there that we rescind our motion to council, and that we grab this opportunity to have a really good look at what we charge for this hall for recognised community groups. We certainly don't want a situation where it's a free-for-all, but as we did with Annie's group, we give it some initial seed funding to see how that went, and it's going. It's continuing on. It's a good thing for Kāwhia. Jeanette and Lorraine's exercise group to the elderly on a Thursday, that's been going on for a while. So, but can they, they do a cold call. They're thinking about doing a cold call donation to help pay for it, but there's one on windy weekdays, only get 3 or 4 turn up, So, we just need to have a rethink about what we charge, if anything, for recognised community groups that need this community asset on a regular basis to improve the wellness of Kāwhia.
Yes, agreed. It's fine. There's a role. Whaki waitara.
I know, I saw you winding me
Oh
up.
my gosh.
I thought
Yes,
you winding me up.
we understand, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
totally tautoko, era kuru.
I just wanted I wanted everything to get out.
I agree, Jeff, I agree, and I wish I'd given it some more thought, I keep on looking down here and going, moved by board member Harper, so, I wish we could put the other half of that document, that other half of that page in there as well, and review all of those charges, but no, I'll go along with what you're saying, if, yep, let's rescind that part, and
Councillor Jeffries?
I want to charge those fellas more.
I'm comfortable with your approach, Mr. Chairman. Yep.
Could I suggest some wording then for the recommendation? So I think it's three parts. The first part is to revoke the KCB recommendation of April 2025. It's resolution K99A to amend the Kāwhia Community Centre fees, and B, recommend to ODC to defer any changes to the Kāwhia Community Centre fees. And then C, staff to report back to KCB on the options around the fees for the Kāwhia Community Centre. Does that make sense? A three-stage
Well
recommendation?
You make a good secretary, Tony.
And then what that would mean is Graham would then have that opportunity to come back to you with what the costs might be for reducing those fees in terms of maintenance and everything else, and I'll go with it.
And what I suggest, we've got some briefings after this meeting.
Hmm.
We could have a chat about things.
So
So,
that's very clear. Thanks, Tony.
So you want someone now to move and second that?
have a mover,
Yeah, I would move.
seconder. Move, board member Hugh, seconder, board member Harper, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you.
I was going to say, Richard, what I could do with the at a subsequent board meeting, which sort of with the charter boat, with the berthage fees, like I can have a look and just see what other councils are charging. You know, like I think when we looked at it a few years ago, so I sort of had a look at what Raglan were charging and you know, some of the other places, and then you know, just investigate that whole kind of bylaw thing. So we've got a bit of teeth around some enforcement, because I can see you're pretty passionate about it now. So we could certainly have a look.
To be fair, I appreciated board members Harper's deep dive. It highlighted huge anomalies with
Yeah.
how we're charging for council assets, for community-owned assets.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And you could actually, if I may, just if you go back to page 2 of your agenda and have a look at the role of the community board, I think what you're doing here is covered in there as well, particularly items 3 and 4, I would suggest, and 5. So
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is fine.
Yeah. And I respect you, the board, for listening to my.
All ourselves, read the plan.
Right, thank you for that, board members. Moving on to this information only, there's no reports, public excluded, there's no reports there. Board member updates. Do we need a 5-minute break? Please, for the sticky fingers.
Are we having a break?
I think so, yes. I'll just, we'll in recess for 5 minutes.
Oh,
Like board members are, we're back in range again. Board member updates? Go on that side. Board member Harper. Harper. How you been?
Well, I attended the Kāwhia concept meetings, a number of them. And I've got to say, bearing in mind Kip's comments about parking, I actually think they're trying to do a pretty damn good job.
Yeah.
And the proposals that they're putting, but it's a big change what they're trying to say, but I think they're trying to do a good job, but I'm just not sure whether they're gonna fly and the parking is gonna become a real issue. The other thing is I went to the forestry meeting last night. I thought that was pretty good. And today I attended, at 70, almost 71 years old, I attended my first Tai Chi class. Good boy. And it was fantastic. It was that. Kind of, gee, I might sound like I'm a racist, an oriental type relaxation, flexation, and all that. It's very, you see the,
Where was it?
up at the Marai, through the,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and
through the,
that's the organisation that supplied.
through Jasmine's group up there, but they have it down at the Marai. It was excellent, I've got to tell you. I was quite a bit of a fan. But I've seen the gentleman down in the park doing it with the sign up saying Tai Chi lessons. So I've seen him down in the park on the odd occasions. So, yeah. So, the Kāwhia concept meetings, damn fine stuff, but I'm just not sure how it's all going to fly. But I don't take anything away from the very good people that are trying to do it. I think they're trying to do a fantastic job.
Thank you.
That's my update.
Councillor Jeffries.
I won't mention the boat ramps. I won't mention the wharf. Jeff, I'll save that for you later. My update.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's been quite a busy month, actually. On the 8th of April, we had an extraordinary district council meeting that was followed by, that was to do with local water done well. There's been a heap of work done behind the scenes on the water thing. And I don't think that we as elected members really appreciate the effort that's gone into that from the staff. So we need to acknowledge that and thank them for that. That was followed by a workshop. On the 14th of April, we had a visit to Kāwhia prison, and that was absolutely fascinating. And I was just blown away by the size of the thing, and just some of the things that I remember about it was the cells. I wouldn't like to be in one. They're very austere, let's put it that way. It's got the biggest commercial kitchen in the southern hemisphere there. There's a whole lot of, they seem to be concentrating a lot now on mental health too. They're talking about, there's a separate wing dedicated just to the to mental health.
It's got to be good.
Inmates, yeah. And looks like a small hospital inside. It's got, you have a doctor's surgery, you've got the couch and all the things there, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, very good. On that afternoon, later in the afternoon, I took part in the beach access site visit with Kāwhia representatives and staff. Tony and Jeff were both there for that.
No, I was out
Paul, yeah. Paul didn't seem to think that it was going to be too much of an issue to put a tractor blade through on there and just tidy up the track. The big issue, I guess, as we're probably all aware, is actually cutting through the sand dunes and out onto the beach. That's going to be the biggie. So there's quite a lot of work still to be done on that. On the 15th of April, we had the Local Water Done Well meeting here in Kāwhia in this community centre. That was an extremely disappointing turnout from the locals. We got two, husband and wife, turned up for that. And we were, I don't know how many staff and councillors were here that night, but we certainly outnumbered the public. So that was I don't know whether it's an indication whether people just don't care or don't know, or whether it's their
Indication they trust the council.
trust their council.
I copied some signs off my printer and put them up in,
Yep.
and whatnot, in the doctor's surgery and whatnot.
Well, and Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're looking at a situation where we're getting into bed with 6 other councils, and that we'll be turning the tap, if you excuse my pun, on the 1st of July 2027.
I think that's correct. So we're the second tranche.
Yep. So we've still got about 18 months to run on the existing arrangement that we have. 20th of April, there was the ratepayers meeting at Aotea. That was a good one, Jeff, and no doubt you'll probably talk about that. 25th of April was the Anzac Day parade. Very good parade. I'm told that there was many people there for that as there was at the Oklahoma one. So I don't know how many were there, but there was a lot of people there. It was a very good parade. Just congratulate the Teresa Tracy, who were the organisers for the day, and pass on our thanks for that. 28th of April, I had a housing committee meeting. We're looking at trying to find some land that's suitable for perhaps 5 or 6 affordable homes, to put 5 or 6 affordable homes on. Been doing a bit of work behind the scenes, and at the moment I've got some information from a company called Versatile, and they produce small affordable homes, anything from about 250,000 up to 300, 400,000, which is probably sort of getting in that price bracket that we're looking at for first home people. So there's a work in progress there. 29th of April, we had our council, Oklahoma District Council monthly meeting. And then on 1st of May, we had the concept plan meetings here. We had the fitness trail representatives and then the charter boat people in the afternoon. The following day, we had a meeting up at the Kāwhia school, concept plan meeting at Kāwhia school, and that was really neat. I thought the kids were lovely, and Leanne's got them pretty well under control up there. I think she's doing a good job. And that was followed by a Better Places Together meeting at which all these local meetings were summarised and action requirements agreed. So the Resilio people have got a bit of work to do, but they're coming back to us with the updated plans for us to have a look at. Last Saturday we had the public open day here. I understand that I came down, I was only here for about half an hour, and I understand it was very successful, and there were a lot of people turn up for that and quite a lot of feedback on the day. So I just want to say thank you to the staff involved in organising and running that. It's always good to see people coming down, taking interest in what's going on in your own town here. And lastly, as Richard said, there was a meeting last night with the logging people, and I thought that that went very well. There was probably, 30, 40 people here? Yeah, 30.
If you didn't count the top day.
Yeah. And the representatives from the logging, the transport people, and from Tainui Kāwhia, they all spoke very well. So I thought that went particularly well, and everyone went home happy, I think, on that. And we got some issues. Well, one particular issue that was raised was the lay-bys or the pull-off areas on State Highway 31 between here and Nui turn-off. What poor condition they're in, and the potholes and so on in those. So that's been logged with NZTA, and hopefully we'll see some action with that in the near future. So that's me, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
O tēnā tātou. Board member few's been on annual leave. Board member few went to the Waipona, went to the west coast of the South Island. Lord and I took our holiday, travelled over from Christchurch, got a car, went to Hokitika, all the way down to Fox Glacier and back up to Greymouth again. So I just returned home. But before we went away, I was asked along with Jeff to sit on the police interview panel for the interview for the recruitment for our new possible police officer. So I did that before we went away. So watch this space. Also, because we were down in Hokitika for Anzac Day, Lloyd and I attended the dawn ceremony there up at the Hokitika RSA Cemetery Park, and very different attending a dawn ceremony to the one we have here. I felt more emotional and yeah, just very, very different. So I'm really glad we went along. I've got my granddad's brother is buried there, who was one of the servicemen. So that was even special again. My dad is from the West Coast.
Okay.
Born and bred in Ross, south of Hokitika. So I've still got family on the West Coast. So it's lovely. Also, Sunday just gone, the Kāwhia Māori Women's Welfare League in Kāwhia, who I'm the Madam President for, Kāwhia Māori Women's Welfare League branch, we hosted the Tainui Regional hui down at Makatu on Sunday, and that was attended by about 60 wahine from different branches within the Tainui rohe. So yeah, that's my report. Tēnā tātou.
The mum from a lovely place down there.
My dad, yes.
Dad's from
My mum's from here.
Yeah. Thank you, Bobby. Just I start off by thanking board member Few for filling in for me last meeting when I was laid up with my bung knee.
Welcome.
So that's all progressing well. Most of where I've been has been mentioned here, but yeah, I'd just like to say thank you to Rod and Jacqueline from Cilio for the effort that they're putting into contacting so many different affected parties with this plan that they're putting together for a better place for us all out here. ODC made the right call, I think, going with a company that was competitively priced and had local input with Rod and Jacqueline living here in Kāwhia. It's showing, certainly. The involvement that they had, I attended the Aotea, the affected parties for the Aotea playground that's over there, and they contacted everyone that had a view of that park and sat them in a meeting down here and got diverse opinions, but the opinions were 50-50. So that's for Rod and Jacqueline to go away and work through on that one. We've then, following that, we had the charter boats. We had a presentation to the charter boats because they're potentially an affected party, and that there's going to be some rearrangements of parking spaces. Okay, and one of the plans, I hope is to open this hall up a bit more, but facing that way. And we're working hard. But Annie's planned for over there too. So I think this is a huge asset if we treat it right, and it needs to have a look at the seat. This one. So interesting to see the concept on that one. The logging meeting went exceedingly well last night. There was 30 odd in the crowd, all interested parties, and every logging company and management company was represented here. There would have been 15 people up there at that top table, and they all spoke eloquently and answered any questions and certainly put everyone mind at rest. There's potentially up to 27 truck movements a day coming.
That was an extension on the.
No, once they added everything up, because 12 of them were out of Kāwhia, out of Aotea. So that's where it's bumped the numbers up.
I thought it was great.
Yeah, it really went well, and on public record, I'll acknowledge the great driving that those drivers have up there. They pull over when they can, that's for sure. And council, I because I was laid up with my weak knee, I didn't do much council travelling in Tauranga, but I attended the Te Karawai celebration, which was council mark work, which is basically a quality control system we had on the council. And the way Max explained it, when they were brave enough to get themselves assessed 4 or 5 years ago, they came up with the triple C. So they decided that's something that needed to be done about it. And we got assessed, ODC got assessed as an A. So that was a hell of an improvement over the last 4 or 5 years, that's for sure. The ARS have done their meeting, and yeah, we're working hard to make sure that everyone out of our tier knows what's going on with the better places. And the community engagement in Kāwhia is stunning. You know, they really get involved in the better places together, and hopefully that there'll be there will be positive stuff coming out of that. Attended with the board member few, and that was an interesting experience. I know it wasn't your first time, but in terms of police interviews, it's great to see that the police focus here for Kāwhia is to have a community involvement with their police officer. And we need to support whoever it is that comes in here, and we need to throw 150% support behind that person. You know, for them to make a commitment to move here with their family is huge, and we don't want to have some repeats of some of the other things. The way the police explained it is that Kāwhia should be a plum posting. Everyone wants to go to the beach, you know, but their posting
should be
a plum posting. It should be sought after. Right? So that's our responsibility as a community to make it sought after. So when the police officer is appointed, then I suggest that we have a community welcome, and we give him or her the full Kāwhia treatment. Full Monty, make them feel welcome. Anzac Day went really well this year. The Kāwhia one is just stepping up a level each year. You know, Teresa and Tracy, the efforts that they're putting in there is astounding, and they're adding bits and pieces to it all year, and that comes at a cost. We've got at the discretionary fund. There's an application in there, and I'll speak to that. And of course, the Anzac Day service, the sunset ceremony at Aotea, which is guaranteed to help at the same time every year, give or take a minute. That's always well attended, and it certainly adds an emotion to the day. And I'd love to be able to fit an Anzac dawn service somewhere around, because that adds a new level.
Yeah,
another level to it. But overall, thank you, board members, for bearing with me over the last month. So we've had, and I've given you a hell of a work week, so my apologies for that. But it's time. We just need to grab it and do things. So thank you, board members.
Yeah, Jeff, just while you're on the Anzac one, there's been a suggestion that we've parades, as long as I can remember, have never gone near the Anglican Church Lichgate, which shows all the one boys on there. And you're suggesting a dawn service. That might be an ideal place to perhaps have a dawn service, and then the public one down at the cenotaph is pretty usual. It's just a thought, but it would be nice to commemorate
definitely
those World War I boys.
Definitely.
I'd just like to mention that I did go to an Anzac parade. I went to the Otahoa, and it was very good. It was mid-morning, and I went there because my daughter was playing rugby in the afternoon. Otherwise, it would have been at this one. But the point that Kit's just raised, someone also, I was overhearing on my nosy way a discussion about that. And if we did take our Anzac parade up there, we might be able to cut down on our costs for road closures quite dramatically. That's
Yeah, Paul's got a few ideas about that. But
yeah, so we might be able to, if we did move it to that, although the cenotaph thing, you know, so hard to do.
There are going to have to be some serious discussions around Anzac Day costs.
Road closure costs, but we're not alone, no.
I know,
We're reading it all the time, different councils and community boards are having this book right across New Zealand, so we're not alone.
We're not alone, but that's okay. Thank you for your update, board members. Board projects. You're okay with the Kāwhia community storyboard going on, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just give an update there? So I just want to mention that there's 2 boards that we're talking here. We're talking about the storyboards, which is work in progress. Frank has been working on putting all the narrative, which I'm hoping to have a draft copy at our next hui. So that's the storyboards. the kaupapa tuarua. The second part is the sign as you come in, the slow down, where we're looking at, where I presented some drafts at our last meeting. Ata haere slow down. So I've got some drafts here, and there's an image that I'm just wanting to put at the back of them, and I will email those out for feedback. So that's where, and this image is with the branding, is with encompassing the photo frame design, and also the designs that we've got on the main, on the roads on the right hand and the left hand for turning off into Kāwhia. So the branding is staying within the same branding guideline. So that's storyboards, then the ata haere, the slow down sign. The third one is at the last hui was talking with Nikki, who's working in with the Otorohanga College for the sign in the foyer here. So Nikki and I caught up on the phone today, but we're going to catch up next week to talk about design. So so there's 3 kaupapa. So that's those are my quick updates.
That does speak to the resolutions at the back. Great. Thank you for that. Community Board Discretionary Fund 822. We have 2 applications with this stage and 3 Kāwhia. Oh, Jasmine, sorry. Oh, 3.
There's going to be 2.
Well, the Anzac Day one.
Oh, Anzac Day.
Not on the list. Item 1, page 22, item 1. The kaupapa of that was included in your agenda, wasn't it? But you're all aware of the work that Jasmine does up there with the Kaumātua program that's up there.
It's very good,
Yeah.
very popular.
And that you were part of that today with the Tai Chi.
Yeah, I've been to it a couple of times, but I don't go to it regularly. But it's popular. It's good. Lots of different people there. It's good.
She gave a good breakdown on the what she submitted was a great breakdown on where the cost will be going to.
Is there any questions on Jasmine's submission?
Well, the only comment I've got, Mr. Chairman, is that I think it's a very worthwhile cause, and I certainly support it. I'm just a little bit concerned that we may be crossing over, though, into some aspects of providing social services, which is really a central government function, not ours. So it's just a matter of getting that balance right, I think.
Yeah, I understand that, but it is targeted to Kāwhia, and yes, I understand that, but it must be so hard chasing your tail all the time,
I understand exactly what Kit's saying, like it is, but at the end of the day, they got nowhere to go and get the money, and that's what it's about. And all these people are Kāwhia people, are all the elderly of Kāwhia.
You couldn't get more targeted than this.
I'd love to be able to go down to the government and say, look, give us the check for $1,500. They ain't going to do that, but we can.
Any other comments?
Not necessarily, I wasn't suggesting the whole amount.
Yeah.
No, I understand what to say.
And I agree, because that was one of the questions I asked them. And yes, they are getting funding, obviously, otherwise it wouldn't work. But it's limited to what they can do. And I asked them if they were getting funding from Waikato Tainui, and they don't. Okay, so
Because Waikato Tainui are marae based.
Yeah, I think she explained.
That's where that's why the funding is for our beneficiaries, for our tribal whānau at who are affiliated.
Oh, I totally understand. Yeah, wasn't
So this the setup up there is very different. It's not a marae based.
No. They cater for Kāwhia Aotea residents, So it's not there.
The only other thing too, Mr. Chairman, would be, I wonder whether it wouldn't hurt to let Jasmine have a chat to Nikki Dealey at the council, because Nikki is, I guess, the guru in terms of finding community funding. She may have years to do where else they could apply.
Yeah, well, the 25-26 funding rounds is open now, so that
And through you, Mr. Chair, sorry, no, you go, Kāwhia.
Through you, the funding has just been allocated for the recent grant rounds.
Yeah.
And Jasmine is a member of the Creative Community Scheme, or one of the people allocating it, so she works very well with Nikki.
Right.
And also through Mr. Chair, I've mentioned before, I sit on the COGS funding committee, and that's something else that they could look at as well. Like it's there.
Yeah, I mean.
We don't have anyone from here
Yeah, if
apply.
we could make this program elite, we, instead of scratching around all the time trying to.
But just remember, we're not a funding, this is
Agency.
not a committee of, not a funding committee,
No, wait.
you know?
Because the discretionary fund really, as I understood, it was really just to help people with one-offs.
Yeah.
It wasn't intended to be a regular thing, but
Well, we're not a grant, are we? We're not a grant.
they're not a grant. Just
Like I sit on the COGS, I sit on a few funding committees, and we do spend a lot of time on this, on our meetings, speaking about funding.
Suggestions in on amount if the funding's acceptable, suggestions on.
Oh, wow.
Well, we've got, what have we got? We've got 500 for.
We've got,
Annie,
yeah, we've got.
you've got 500 for the Anzac, am I correct?
If you agree.
And we've got $4 grand in the kitty. And can we throw any money at that community notice board? And can we throw some money at Jasmine?
Through the chair, you do have another application that will be coming back in June.
Yeah.
For another $500 for Kāwhia audit to continue.
okay.
So that's come through formally, but we couldn't put it on this agenda.
Right.
So
You
Jess,
may- you may
Jess
get
does, yes,
another-
sorry.
You may get another application from the Kāwhia too.
Yeah.
But that'll come in the new year.
That's okay. If we have some bit of breathing space, we can then really focus on June.
What's her name?
So, Jess has asked for $1,500. 500 for the exec, is that correct?
If the board approves it.
Yes, and then 500 for the Kai kaupapa. The board, I had this corridor with Tony before, I wasn't too sure where the expense comes from the board that we're looking at, that's $550, I got a quote today,
So save some aside for that.
yeah.
Oh, that should be more of a Parks and Reserve.
Yeah, but at least it gives us some breathing
Yes,
space.
I was wondering about that,
We put that on.
Great.
So just to move on then to item 1, is there a motion input by someone? And on an amount, if there is.
I'd move it, well. I'd move a motion that we grant $1,000. Yes, sir. For the whole thing. We've got to try and spread this, well, no,
yeah,
I'll move 1,500. But we're getting more money in July, aren't we?
Yeah, one
Yeah.
July start again.
yep.
I'll move
I
1,500.
moved, board member, how about that $1,500 be allocated, including GST? Excluding
Your fund is excluded.
GST, so we can add GST. if we-
I'll second.
Seconded by board member Few. All those in favour? Carried. Now, I have, moving on to the second one, whereas Chairperson Jeff would propose the board consider allocating some funding for the Kāwhia Anzac Day service. He proposed $500 retrospective grant for the 25 service, which is the grant just gone. I'll speak to it, but I don't, because I propose it, I don't necessarily.
Yeah, can I recommend you hand the chair over to someone just for this?
No.
This one, yeah.
Could I, yes, can we,
I can speak to it if you would.
yes, if you could speak to it, and then we'll have a mover and a seconder, please.
Right. This is the third year I've been involved in the Kāwhia Anzac Day service, and it's growing, okay? I'm getting more involved with Teresa at Aotea now, and I'm starting to see the effort that she puts into it with Tracy, and not only that, the putai that they put in as well. And they haven't asked me for this, they've never complained about it, but I know that there's significant out-of-pocket funds going into that service, you know. They get $300 from Wataronga, generously from Wataronga District Council. But we see, you know, the wreaths that go there, the kai that's put on afterwards, you know, the music that they had this year, you know, and the sound system, it just gets better, you know. And Teresa just happened to mention me, she just loved to be able to afford a live bugler. Huh? So I was like, right, let's preempt them having to work on a budget of $300 for next year, which might not be there. Okay, that's still on the LTP plan. There can be changes within local bodies about how Anzac Day is funded. So I was thinking that we have an opportunity now to retrospectively grant $500 for this year's service. It's not for next year's service because that can be dependent on.
Yeah.
But that's my korero on this.
So that's a retrospective payment for the services that we've received.
Which is,
Because these, as you say, these folk are out of pocket and good must go.
yeah, and this is not their suggestion. They have not mentioned the word to me.
Yeah,
But it's also seed funding that they can move forward confidently for 2026.
I mean, if we look at doing the same thing again, we're getting out of the.
Yeah, and I know damn well there'll be nothing getting paid. They won't pay themselves back for this year. I know that.
Who are we sending to bugle school?
Well, I used to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Did you?
Yeah, I did it for about 25 years.
Yeah.
But I'd like to move $500 respectively for the Anzac Day costs.
I'll say.
All agree?
Thank you, Belinda. Item number 3. Annie Mahara has requested funding for the hire of the Kāwhia community.
Oh, no, I don't think that's.
And you waited all this time.
No, we haven't.
I thought that'd get you to sit up early.
Now, Annie is, we all know what's happening with Annie, okay? So we're okay with that. It's a very valuable resource for Kāwhia. And perfect use of our funds. But this is now tied up with what could be getting progressed to councils next month. So what I might suggest is that we approve a figure. Okay, so at least whatever happens next month, you're set for the next the rest of this financial year. But on the understanding that things change and fees for the hall reduce, we get our money back. You be okay with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So total funding requested was 548 $20. Because that stays the same, $20. So nothing changes, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I propose then that Kāwhia Community Discretionary Fund allocate $540 to the Kai for Kāwhia organisation under the understanding that if there's changes to the hall pricing structure, if there's balance left over, it gets returned. Will it? Do we have a seconder?
Yep.
Yeah, seconded. Councillor Jeffries, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you, board member.
Can I just ask one part-time? I have on the discretionary fund. Is there an accountability form that there isn't? So the poochie just goes into the bank and then.
The account, we're unique here in that the accountability is us.
Okay.
Huh?
We did encourage report backs, didn't we?
Yeah,
from
but
those
the
organisations that
accountability
was
is
given
us.
money.
We
So
have
we
to-
have tried to get accountability that way and encourage them to.
I don't know that you want to get too bogged down on paper. It's up to us to make sure.
No, I'm just asking.
You totally
I've got my
understand.
funding,
Yeah.
you're talking about funding, I've got my funding hat on.
Absolutely,
I was also
but you know,
thinking about accountability,
it's down to
because
us.
the thing is, this is ratepayers' money, isn't it?
Yep, you're right.
Yeah.
And it is truly, we're going to be unique here because anyone can provide a report saying that they've done their thing and they've done it so well and they're magnificent. But if we all keep an eye on how our putai is spent, then
Yeah.
that's the best accountability.
Yep.
Okay.
Ultimately,
Thank you. Now the other one that's coming up is item K104 on page 23, which is the Kāwhia Water Club. But that, once again, is, we're not going to make a decision on it this month, because that we'll see how we go with our resolution on there. Okay. Well, hang on. Black funding.
Because they came to the last hui.
Yeah.
So you've got time to make a decision next month, it's been deferred for next month, before your funding runs out.
But I think they might have run out of funding. They might have funding because it's the thing's so successful. They've added an extra. I think they've added an extra session. You know,
Was this the Thursday morning one we took?
no, well, it's five. Sometimes they do Thursdays. They do the mornings and nights.
Is this the one that Mel goes to?
Yeah, well, she doesn't do the mornings.
Yeah, and Dolly. Yeah.
They came and presented at the last meeting.
Can I ask a question? I'm led to believe that there is a gym around by the iron sands depot. Am I correct in that? Like, I think, is that available to people, or is that a private gym, or
It's a shed. It's a shed.
Waka tangata.
Yeah, it's got waka. Yeah. And some of the whānau tied up with the walkers have got some training equipment in them, and they use that. Right? It's got
But
no
it's not a
power.
public gym?
It's not a public.
Okay,
It's its own.
that's all right, okay, wait for it.
But we know the difficulties. Yeah. And that's a good situation up there. So I don't know what's, you know.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think it's important that group continues. So, I mean, if you want, I'll move the.
So if we do that, it's a later item, so you need a resolution to accept that as a later item. And then you can vote on whether you portion the funding.
Oh, you're talking about K104, are you, Tony?
It's on there, isn't it?
No, that's the list of what you already funded.
Okay. Oh, so that should have been there.
Because we approved that at the last.
Oh, I see. Sorry.
Yeah.
Clear as mud.
So you've got a late request
Okay.
for an extension to her order.
Yeah.
And Kyle will correct me if I'm wrong, but you need to accept that as a late item if you want to make a decision.
But nothing's come through us as a late item from them.
There's been an email through.
We made sense, and we thought we better just tie it up and see what we're doing here. So,
Can we read the email now?
can you read the email?
Have you got it there, Ken?
Mr. Chairman, just while Kyle's doing that, I'd also like to, and I don't know, Tony, procedurally tell me, the discretionary funds for both community boards are rate funded, and Graham confirmed earlier that Kāwhia's is 50-50. But what happens at the end of the year, if there's a balance that remains, in the past, that balance has just disappeared. I don't know, it just goes into a black hole somewhere. I'd like to suggest that the board might consider actually any balances remaining from its discretionary fund at the end of each financial year be held over and reserved and available for the following year. So you're not losing it because you're actually funding it, but then it disappears at the end of each year. Yeah.
There would need to be a recommendation to council in terms of our financial policy.
Okay.
And Brendan would need to advise on that. My understanding is because it's treated as operational, you need to have a project in order to be able to carry it over. So if it's just sitting there without a project, our normal funding policies, we don't carry those OPEX forward.
Okay.
So if you want to do that in your June meeting, you'd have time to do it in your June because you meet before council, that's correct. Okay. So you would recommend at your June meeting to ODC to carry over any unspent discretionary funds.
Yes, that would be good. Yeah, on an annual basis.
You could try that. That would be right, Kyle?
Okay. So we received this on Tuesday, the 6th of May, and it was from Kelly Barrett, who's the organiser. She's the organiser of the Kāwhia Water Club. Kia ora, Kāwhia. As we are nearing the end of our haul, so I'm writing to request further funding in the amount of $500 to cover the cost of another 25 hall bookings for the Kāwhia Hall Club, which is once again based on the $20 per hall. We've been very fortunate to have a safe, warm space to continue our physical activities that we have available for the community currently 4 days per week, with 2 sessions on Tuesday and Thursday, making a total of 6 sessions per week. The outcome of having the hall these past few weeks has been a blessing, with the weather getting cooler as we are now forced indoors where it's dry and we're protected from the wind. The hall has been perfect, protecting our people from the outdoor elements so we can keep up our consistent exercise routine. With the days being shorter and there being limited natural light in the evening, having the hall has helped us to continue comfortably as most of the evening sessions finish when it's dark outside. We feel it has built our people closer together by having the space to take care of our physical and mental well-being. Having the hall has helped us to continue to take care of our overall Hauora well-being. Knowing we have a space, safe place to work out helps us to continue on becoming better versions of ourselves. We deeply appreciate the community board's ongoing support and hope you will consider our request. Should you wish to have any further information or wish to discuss this more in detail, please don't hesitate to contact me. Thank you. Thank you for your time and consideration. Yours sincerely, Kāwhia Hauora Club founder Kelly Barrett.
So how much are they requesting?
$500, which is based on the $20.
Yeah, so the last month they requested 500, which we okayed. So that's been used in a month.
Yeah.
So if we go for another 500 for another month, are they going to come back in another month?
I would probably put a limit on.
There's not like, are we going to be?
We can't be fucking.
No,
We can't get into that.
no.
Not at that rate of speed
Yeah.
anyway.
Which is why I left this off the agenda until we'd gone through our reconsideration with all judges. But this can be.
You've got two options, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair. So you can either defer it till June, or you can resolve to consider it now,
Yeah.
and then determine a yes or a no, or
Can I ask our balance?
We will still, that'll take us to $2.5 grand.
My
Sorry,
calculation,
that'll take us to $3.
We have
So we've got
$1,542.60.
left.
Balance.
Sorry,
$1,542.60.
is what we've got left.
Left after.
And that's not approving this one we're talking about. at the
No,
moment.
no.
Okay.
So you spent.
Because we've also got an expense on that we need to talk about for that community board as well.
From what I've read, though, there could be there's lots of other funding options for that. From what Nikki said, there's lots of other funding options for that.
I'm unsure.
Mm.
I sent an email trying to find that out. But I think that what they need, well, this is outside of this discussion, but yeah, okay.
so if you want,
Bearing in mind that in 5 weeks' time, it rolls again.
The problem with the community board one is it's going to be done as a school project within a term year, within the curriculum through the, I guess, what I'll call the old woodwork class, but I'm not sure if that's what it is anymore. So they need some sort of say, yes, we're going to do it so that they can get that project, because otherwise we're going to miss it. And that's a little bit of a concern. Yeah, there's Kāwhia kids involved with this here, even though they may be at Otago High School, and I just think it's a great little thing. Kids might just say, well, walking past, well, I contributed to that board and all the rest of it. So I think so I want us to see us to try to move that along, because if we lose it, we're not going to get it again until next year, which will be too late to fit into the concept plan and whatever else that sits in there. So I just want us to be aware of that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I do want to try and push some funding to that. I understand, Jeff, the discussion we had about local, and that's good, but there is a local component to this, and it's very going to be helpful to the community. So, but
Yeah, but consider though, and it's in 5 weeks' time that the funding starts again. We can't fund the whole thing then, can we?
yeah, well, we wanted to get a final amount, didn't we? And we wanted Hinga to get involved with that thing. But I think we've got to give them a signal that we are going to say yes, we're going to take that, and so that they can move it forward. Now, that is going to possibly be a liability for us.
Could you,
I guess, Kāwhia, get some advice?
Through the chair. So I had a conversation with Nikki. She does have funding, alternative funding for this project. The board would not need to use its discretionary fund
excellent,
for the notice.
Okay.
excellent.
And information I hold on the Haora Club is that their current funding runs out on the 15th of May, and the request will take them up to 30 June.
Okay.
Right. Do we know why?
Sorry, I'm just, such a rock and a hard place here. You know.
Yeah, do we know why the funding for them has been pulled? Because that was Dr. John's.
I don't know. I didn't ask that, Jeanette.
Yeah.
No, this is the whole club, the one,
No,
that's the expense.
Oh,
We're talking about the girls that
Yeah,
came
yeah,
to
the girls.
present last time.
Oh,
okay, sorry, yeah.
I was thinking so when they were involved with the Kai Festival, the idea was to try and encourage people to try and fund it themselves and all the rest of it. I just wonder whether we've got someone who can go and chat to this group and say, you know, how can we help you get your funding from elsewhere?
Yeah.
Because they just can't come to us
Well, they've gone
on
to,
that for that extent of money.
no, they've gone, they've got from what I saw their Facebook page, and they've been successful with an ODC community grant for $2,000 to get gear
Yeah.
that they can store here. It's the operation, it's the OPEX that's causing them problems, not their CAPEX. You know, where they have, you know, they can apply for funding and get that stuff for the equipment to make it all work, but it's just the operational expenses of this. So,
Well, I know when they had it up at the sport, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the fitness club again.
yeah,
It was a gold coin.
yeah.
They used to bring a $2 gold coin or something, and that pretty much covered the rental for the day. So,
But see here, we've got the potential, this thing's gonna go up to $35
And
and multiply that by 6.
that's another issue too, you know, like with the sports club getting, hopefully going to be completed, there may be options for some of these groups to migrate.
So, through you, Mr. Chair, so they've requested for $500, but the cost won't be that much because we're not charging the,
Subject to our discussion.
yes, subject to our discussion. So, I'll move that we pay the 500 this time. But for future, they'll have to, source funding elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's how I'm feeling,
Okay, well.
just to move things along.
Have a second for that?
Yeah, I'll see.
Moved by board member Hugh, seconded by board member Hart. With that, we allocate $500 to the Kāwhia Club.
That's only for the next month.
Yeah, just for the next month, subject to.
To the group's understanding that this is not going to be ongoing
Yeah,
funding.
subject to, but also that if things change, as we might change with Annie, the funding, reserve
If
funding.
it's $1,000,
Yeah,
2
yeah,
months.
yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Right. All those in favour? Carried. Okay. Moving on to the resolution register. No resolution on that. That the meeting be held with recreation and Kāwhia, that's ongoing, Richard, isn't it?
It certainly is ongoing.
Yes. Moving on to K91, that the Kāwhia board was, regarding the trees. That's progressing, and the trees will be removed, and it's just a matter of finding the right
I
time.
would like to see progress, you know, like it's yeah. I was going to suggest at the forestry meeting that they took a fella buncher down there and cleaned it all up in an hour, but I'm not sure that would go down.
We are the 3 legs of this have been completed, which is engineering support, community board support, and mana whenua support. So now it's just a matter of treating everyone with due respect. And,
so I know the root numbers favourable.
yeah, I was talking to Susan was here. Susan was here for our Better Places Together, you know. And I must admit, Nadia Kairos pragmatic, past, present and future focus in that report was well done. It was excellent. Well, they thought about what had happened in the past, they thought about what was happening now, but more importantly, they thought about what could happen in the future if that road disappeared. Okay. Page 99, fees and charges, recommend Tauranga District Council, yeah. We'll have a wee chat for that one. Cool, busy, K100, new community board proposal. This proposal was put on hold until resolution K02. But that's sort of negated now. Nikki's got funding somewhere else, isn't it?
May I speak?
Yes.
Through the chair, there are a series of resolutions and they are all out of sync. So they actually, for a logical progression, you have resolution 102, which needs to be completed. And then so that's the design brief. Then 100 is the college to prepare a concept design, which will then come back to the board in K103, that a report will come and you consider and make a final decision. And then when it goes for installation, K101 is the next one.
Right, so speaking then to K102, that's getting the design brief organised. That's happening now, isn't it? Yeah. So that's a tick. And then moving on to the second part, prepare a concept design. Okay, that's K100. The second part of that the Kāwhia Community Board approve Oklahoma College to prepare a concept design for a community notice board. That's a tick, because whatever happens with the funding, how this is funding, it's still got the design brief has still got to come through us, and it's very important that it ties in with board member Stu's idea of how things should look, which was my main concern about how the thing was moving. I felt was a bit too quickly. Okay, then it becomes item K103. That the staff report back to Kāwhia Community Board on Bros design funding options and funding. That could be, yes, the design options are great, and the funding request has been approved by whoever, someone else. Okay. And then moving on to K101, that the Kāwhia Community Board approve the new notice board decided in the outside forum of the Kāwhia Community Board, subject to final design. It's all around. It's all around. They got to get it right with you and us. And then the funding's secondary, because there's lots of other funding options that we can have a crack at. I still would like, because when I was with Resilio at the public meeting on Saturday, they said there's not an appetite anymore with modern urban designers for notice boards, and there wasn't going to be a notice board in their final concept. But if the college comes up with a great design, and it's located in there, then that'll be for us to decide whether we.
Yeah, and it was interesting too, Jeff, talking about technology. They're saying that the use of what is it? The scan
Barcode.
Yeah.
If they were on the signs, someone on the camera, it pops up with a history.
Well, that's what we're thinking about.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking at here for our storyboards.
Yeah, good.
So what I did, but over the last month, I've gone and had a look at the Kāwhia notice board that's down in the RT notice board, and nothing's changing, because everyone's got different ways of doing things now.
This board down on Nominative Reserve could do with a bit of TLC too. I noticed the beading around it's broken away, but also could do a good cleanup.
That's a good call. Lloyd did all the reo for that, working with Jim Webber.
Okay,
that's how long ago it was.
Yeah.
When Jim and Diana Ferris were on the community board.
Okay.
That's how long ago. And then Jim approached Lloyd to do the moulding. So that's, but it's still a great board.
Oh, yeah.
The corridor,
That's a very informative,
So are we able to ask Parks and Reserve people
It'll
to
be
do
great.
something about that?
We can fix that up.
So just bring that back to briefing, because there are a couple of things in there briefing.
Okay.
Anything else, board members?
I have a question for him, if I may. On that side, omitting is spelt differently in two different places.
Yeah.
Is there significance to that?
I was just going to bring that up, that there's some changes that needs to be brought up to date on the board with the reo. So if we once we look at it, can we look at that as well?
Yeah.
Please.
But you know, Jack.
Yeah, yeah.
We've got a great chance here.
Yeah.
To get the,
To get it right.
to get it down.
Yeah.
And to sit in the, to get it uniquely right.
Yeah.
Right? We could be a unique little.
But sometimes what you write down and when it goes to the printers, doesn't necessarily come back how you sent it there. So that happens as well.
Okay, but we'll have a wee briefing to see if we can get our head around these fees and charges for here. But if I could bring the meeting to a close and ask board member you.
O tēnā tātou katoa. The tuatahi, mihi atu ana au ki a koe kaia, mō tō mahi puku mahi mō tā tātou hui. O tērā ki a koe hoki dai, kei wahora koe, I pana nā pātana, nō reira tēnā tātou katoa. If we can all say the closing karakia at the back of our paper together. It's on the back page, on the very back page. Ka pai. Ma te whakapono, ma te tumanako, ma te titiro, ma te whakarongo, ma te mahitahi, ma te aroha, ka taia e tātou. Say it in English too. By believing and trusting, by having faith and hope, by looking and searching, by listening and hearing, by working and striving together, by all being done with compassion, we will succeed. Nō reira, tēnā tātou.
Meeting closed at
Can we send that to the